Have you ever woken somewhere you don't remember going? Your feet aching, your clothes damp with morning dew, the taste of something bitter and ancient lingering on your tongue? That was life in the village of Eldermere, a quiet, hidden town, surrounded by thick ancient forests. A place where the wind carried whispers, doors creaked open on their own, and dreams didn't belong to the dreamer. Every night they walked. No one remembered a time when it hadn't happened. No one spoke of it, not in daylight, not behind locked doors. To talk about it meant admitting it was real, and that was something no one wanted to do. But Evelyn wanted answers. She had woken too many times with dirt beneath her fingernails, with the feeling she had seen something horrible, something she couldn't remember. She had heard her mother whispering in the next room, "It's getting worse. We must not resist. The house knows." The house, at the edge of the village, half buried in shadows, its windows like empty eyes, a mansion that had long since rotted away, yet stood tall, waiting, watching, calling. Tonight, Evelyn wouldn't sleep. She forced herself to stay awake, fighting the heavy weight behind her eyes. But it didn't matter. Midnight came, and she moved. Her body rose on its own, limbs stiff, unfeeling, feet carrying her forward as if pulled by invisible strings. The others were already outside. 100 villagers standing in eerie silence, faces blank, eyes half open but seeing nothing. Their breath misted in the cold night air, bodies swaying with an unseen rhythm. And then they walked. Footsteps in perfect unison echoed through the empty streets, a quiet procession toward the house, toward the thing that waited inside. The why. Closer they got, the heavier the air became, thick, suffocating, pressing against their skin like unseen hands. The trees leaned in, branches curling like fingers, the wind hissing through the leaves. Evelyn wanted to stop, but she couldn't. She couldn't even blink. The house loomed before them, its towering structure covered in creeping ivy, wooden beams blackened with age. The front door stood open, yawning like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. One by one, they stepped inside. The house remembers. The moment Evelyn crossed the threshold, her breath hitched. The house breathed. The air pulsed around her, walls, shuddering like living flesh. The wooden floor was cold beneath her bare feet, slick with something damp. And then, the dreams began. Not dreams, memories. The darkness melted away, replaced by flickering candlelight. The grand chandelier overhead shimmered, casting golden light across velvet curtains and polished floors. The house was alive again, filled with warmth, music, voices. Laughter rang through the halls, a woman's soft giggle, a man's deep murmur, wine glasses clinking, footsteps dancing. For a moment it felt normal. Then, a scream. Sharp, agonized. The chandelier flickered. The warmth vanished. Evelyn's breath came in short, panicked gasps. Shadows crawled from the corners, stretching like skeletal fingers. The voices twisted into low guttural whispers. The villagers stood frozen, lips moving in silent prayer. Something moved upstairs. A slow, dragging sound. Evelyn's body turned, stepping toward the grand staircase. Her feet moved on their own, hands trembling at her sides. The whispers grew, louder. "Find me." The voice was soft, yet it filled every corner of the house. They never listened. A door at the end of the hallway stood open, a faint glow pulsing within. Evelyn stepped inside. The secret waited. The room smelled of rotten old paper. Bookshelves lined the walls, their pages torn and yellowed. A massive wooden desk sat in the center, covered in dust, and in front of it, the woman. She stood still, dressed in a tattered white gown, long dark hair hanging limp over her face. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The woman lifted her head. Her eyes, empty, hollow, black as the void, locked onto Evelyn's. They let it happen. The words slithered from her lips, but her mouth never moved. Evelyn's chest tightened. The air in the room thickened, pressing against her ribs. The woman pointed. Behind her, a door. The wood was covered in deep claw marks, smeared with something dark. Blood. Evelyn's body lurched forward. She reached. For the handle, fingers trembling. The whispers screamed. The villagers outside collapsed, bodies convulsing on the floor. The house shook, walls bending inward, suffocating, closing in. Evelyn yanked the door open. Darkness swallowed her whole, and she fell into the past. She saw it. The night the house died, a family gathered around the grand table, smiling, drinking, toasting to their fortune. Then, a knife. A betrayal. Blood on the floor soaking into the wood. A woman's scream. A fire rising, swallowing the house, swallowing the truth, burying it. Evelyn gasped, her body snapping back into the present. The woman was still there, hollow eyes locked onto her. The house shuddered, groaning like a dying beast. The whispers turned to cries, voices begging, pleading. Evelyn understood. The house was trapped. The villagers, her people, were prisoners of a memory they never lived, forced to relive the past over and over. And unless she did something, they would never wake up again. Evelyn turned back to the desk. The old tattered book lay open, its pages filled with the names of the dead, a ledger of the lost. She reached for it. The woman smiled. The house screamed, and then silence. When Evelyn woke, the sun was rising. The village was quiet. The air was still. She was in her bed. Her hands trembled. Her feet ached. Her body was cold. But for the first time in centuries, the village had not walked, and the house was gone. Just an empty patch of land, as if it had never been there at all. Sleep well, and don't listen to the whispers.